So now they're both out. Okay. Hi, everybody. We're going to start tonight off with a game. It's called Name Drop Challenge. So there's going to be what you and your partner are going to play together. And you each, like, if you guess what's on the screen, you get a point. And if your partner guesses it for you, before you, then they get a point. And there's going to be a list of, like, facts or hints about a mystery person on the screen. And you're going to have to guess who it is.
Be sure to be the first person to get the correct answer. If you get it first, you get a point. But if you get it wrong, the other person gets a point.
All right, let's see what the first one is.
All right, talk with your neighbor. Who do you think it is? Who is she, guys? Who do you think? The answer is Ariana Grande.
All right, let's do the next one. Who is she? The answer is Taylor Swift.
All right, next up.
His father was a filmmaker and his mother was an actress.
Who is he? Lock in your answers. Robert Downey Jr.
Next one? Wait, I really don't know who this one is. Who is she?
So much.
She is
Ava,
Beyonce.
if I say something that is heretical, do you promise
Okay,
to spear tackle
our
me off
next
the
one.
stage? If I say something heretical, do you promise to spear tackle me off the stage?
Only performed in he released 57 albums during his lifetime. 57? Oh my gosh.
Who do you think he is?
Who is it? Elvis.
Elvis Presley.
Oh. Dang, that's impressive. Next one? Is there another one? Oh, she wants more of me. Bro, what? What? That's a fun name. Yeah. Just Dance is one of her many hit songs. Wait, why don't I know who this is? Who is she? Okay, she is Lady Gaga. Oh, I was not.
Remember, if you win, you get bragging rights for the rest of the nights to your friend. All right, our next one is.
Who's younger? Wait, he was younger. He was in the band White Eskimo. What? He auditioned for the show X Factor when he was 16. Okay. Was the lead singer for One Direction. Oh! Who is he?
Who do you think?
He is Harry Styles. Is there another one?
Raise your hand if you're winning against your friends. I love it.
I'm winning. I'm losing. Is there? Oh. Oh. Wait. No. Oh yeah.
Eminem.
Eminem. All right. Is there another one? Oh. Okay, there is another one. Uh-oh.
Who is he?
He's Justin Bieber.
Do we have another one? Is that it? Is that it? Okay.
So, this is the last one. This is the tiebreaker. Oh. Who is she? The answer was Miley Cyrus.
All right, guys, that was a super fun game that we played. We're gonna roll into some announcements now, so can everyone listen? Great. Our first announcement is the talent show, and who is excited?
Me!
I'm super excited too. The talent show is next month, but the deadline to sign up is tonight. So in order to submit an audition, you can do so at the link or the QR code. You have to submit a video of you doing your talent, otherwise you can't do your talent. We have group talents, individual talents, and each small group will be doing their own talent too. So I hope that all of you will submit a talent and that we can see them at the talent show.
All right, the next announcement we have is next week is Parents' Night, so be sure to invite your parents sooner rather than later so that they know ahead of time and can plan accordingly. We're also going to have a guest speaker who's going to talk about the 40-day flight, and it's going to be a great time.
We have a quick announcement. If you guys are interested in joining the announcements team, which is what we do on stage here, you can talk to a staff member, talk to Tony, we can get you set up, and in my experience, doing announcements is a great experience to strengthen your boldness and to just get out there and be bright. So I recommend joining the announcements team.
All right, next announcement is fundraising card sales. So you can sell these cards to earn money for life, and not only life, but also you can sell them for summer camp now too. If you want a set of cards to sell, then go to an RS staff member. Our
final announcement is baptism. If you have said yes to Jesus and you have not yet taken the step of baptism, it is next month, so talk to a staff member. This can be a great next step. When I was baptized, it was an amazing, life-giving, and just life-changing experience. So I recommend it if you have not yet done it yet.
Let's go to our announcements team. They did a great job tonight. Real quick, we had, from a couple weeks ago, we had a giveaway. It's a $25 Chipotle card that we said we would give away to somebody who was checking us out, maybe for the first time. And so Rylan Moss, if you're in the room, you get a $25 Chipotle card. Come on up and get it. Wherever Rylan is, I don't know where Rylan is. Right in front of me. No. Is that you? Awesome. Rylan, come on over, man. Here you go. Awesome. Let's give it up for this guy for just coming and showing up and checking us out. So glad you made it, man. Nice job. Congratulations, $25. All right, hey, as always, we're going to enter into here just a moment to just have a chance to connect with God through worship. Want to invite you guys during this time to do that, to not just miss it, to not just be chatty, but to actually engage God. Also, a little later tonight, we're going to hear a message tonight through Jackson. I'm pretty excited to hear that, guys. So Jackson's going to be teaching tonight. And as always, again, if you guys can, during the message, not be getting up and going around to the bathroom and stuff, take care of that stuff now if you need to or beforehand. Same thing with small group. Small group leaders, remember this. It's not a time to get up and get a drink of water. Do that on your way to small group. Go to the bathroom on your way to small group. That way we can make the most of our time. So thumbs up. Everybody got that? Awesome. Let's check out our highlights from last week.
I gotta be honest, I don't understand, but I gotta be still and trust it's in your hands. The enemy would love for me to give up on you, but you're the one who takes what's dead and makes it new. You are faithful, you are faithful. Jesus, that is who you are. Through the desert and wasteland, where dark goes unfilled, I know you're still good, you're still able. You are
Welcome, Riverside students. I invite you to stand up and worth push-ups. Decided to follow Jesus, the world behind, the cross before, and I won't turn back. I have decided to follow Jesus, the world behind, the cross before, and I won't turn. No, I won't turn back. I won't turn back. The world behind, the cross before, and I won't turn. No, I won't turn back. No, I won't turn back. The world behind, the cross before, and I won't turn back. You rescued me out of the mess I was in. You traded my sorrow for something to sing. Now I'm dancing on the brink. Again and again and again. so if you know, I'd encourage you guys to sing along. I am an instrument of exaltation, and I was born to lift the name above all names. You hear the melody of all creation, but there's a song of praise that only I can bring. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. You are the infinite God of the ages. Yet you chose to make my heart your dwelling place. You healed my brokenness, showed me your glory. So I have songs of thanks, not even angels sing. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Am a God anointed one who was and is to come, seated on the throne above. Holy, holy, righteous one who shed his blood to prove to us the Father's love. Jesus Christ be lifted up. Holy, holy, Lamb of God, anointed one who was and is to come. You're seated on the throne above. Holy, holy, righteous one who shed his blood to prove to us the Father's love. Jesus Christ be lifted up. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. There is no one, only you, Jesus. There is no one, only you, Jesus. Will you guys pray with me? Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this wonderful Wednesday that you have given us, and I pray that whoever's giving the message tonight, that you will let them speak your words to us in your name. Amen.
Hi, guys. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I'm really excited that all of you are here. My name is Jackson McFadden. I am an intern here with Riverside students, and I get to be working with you guys for the next couple months. And already it has been such a joy. So, for those of you who know me, let me reintroduce myself. And for those of you who don't know me, allow me to introduce myself. Yeah. I am from Millbank, South Dakota, but I was born in Iowa and grew up in South Dakota. No, grew up in Texas, from South Dakota, moved there. So, to start off, I'd like to show you some of my favorite people in the world. That would be my family. We'll have them up here. Awesome. Alrighty. So, on the outside are my two parents, as my dad and my mom, and on the inside is my sister and her husband. My sister is 2 years older than me. Her name is Carissa, and right in front of me is my little sister, Tabitha. And then the beardless guy in the white shirt on the right side, that is me, if you would believe it. Growing up, I did not have a whole lot of friends. I can confidently say that up until my 8th grade year of middle school, I didn't actually have a friend, which is okay, because I was a big homebody. I love staying home. I love my mama, big mama's boy. I also played a whole lot of Mario Kart. Are there any Mario Kart fans? Okay, hopefully you'll never have to play me because I'm really good. Real quick, who likes Rainbow Road over Wario's Gold Mine? Rainbow Road? Yes, yes. Wario's Gold Mine. Okay. Those are, in my opinion, the two hardest tracks. And if you want to talk more about that question, I'd love to do it later. So, moving on, after 8th grade year, I would go on to meet someone, someone very important to me. Her name is Riley. We have a photo. Yeah, Riley is my fiance. I love her very much. We're getting married in May, very excited about that. And those are some of my favorite people in the world. Tonight, we get to talk about more people that are very near and close to me, because tonight we're talking about friendships in a message entitled, I'm Not Gonna Lie, Friendships Are a Sacrifice. So, God has been very faithful to me in friendships. I'm very excited to talk to you about this. And I think a good way to start this conversation is realizing that we are people who live in a culture, we live in a society, and so there are friendships, relationships that are often around us that we maybe grow up with, that are maybe examples of what relationships should be, or friendships should be. Growing up, I had some great examples, so in a moment, I will have a couple examples of friendships I grew up and ones that I know. I am also wanting to use this time to ask the question of, am I still hip? I would like to know if I'm still with the youth, as some might say. And so when a friendship is popped up on screen, I would join you into doing this little game with me where if you know the friendship, if you know the characters, I would like you to stand up. And if you stand up, you're joining me and you're saying, hey, Jackson, you're not that old. You're still with it. You're probably not a fossil yet. And I will go, thank you. I hope not to be right now. But if you remain sitting, you can basically be saying, hey, I don't know who those people are. You should probably head on to the History Channel. Yeah, relegating myself there. So the first one that we have are Mia and Lily. If anyone knows who they are, please stand up. Join me. I grew up with them. Really good. Yeah. From Princess Diaries. Alrighty, cool. Give that a second. Alrighty. For our next group of friends, we have Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes. We have some more people stand up. There we go. There we go. Yep. My big claim to fame is that growing up, I got to see every single Avengers movie from not from Captain America, from Iron Man to Endgame in theaters. So I'm a little old, but that allowed me to be able to see all of them coming out, and that's a big part of it because I love Marvel. Okay, our third and final friendship that we're going to use is Samwise and Frodo. Some people sit down, some people stand up. Really, yeah. Alrighty, we'll bring it back together here. Yep. Samwise and Frodo, if you don't know, are from Lord of the Rings. They're two friends, and they go on a journey together. So now I would like to take a moment and reflect on that. So just then, we got to talk about some friendships that some of us knew, some of us didn't know. If we didn't know, we were able to maybe learn a little bit about them. But at the very least, we got to learn a little bit about how people feel about them. And so as I was watching all of you, I got to see little sprawls of conversations pop up about different friend groups, whether it was about Mia and Lily from Princess Diaries, Bucky and Steve, or Samwise and Frodo. There were conversations. And I think that the reason we find such fondness and joy in talking about fictional friendships, or maybe we enjoy talking about memories or times where we got to make some great memories with friends, is because they reflect a deep desire within all of us. And I believe that we all have a deep desire to relate and be known by others. This is seen a lot through the Bible. And the Bible reflects this as God is speaking this truth to his people. Because in the creation narrative, we see that God created Adam. He then places him in a garden with everything he could ever need. He gives him stewardship and control over all the animals. But even to that point, there was not a suitable helper, not a suitable friend for Adam. And we are told that God said, it is not good for man to be alone. It is not good for humanity to be alone, and neither is it for us. We are made to relate to people. We're made to be known and have friendships. This truth has really been spoken into my life in a lot of different ways. And because God has had those moments where, just like bringing Eve up out of Adam to give him a suitable companion, God has raised people in my life to come around me and be friends in times where I needed them most. And so I'd love to share two stories from my life about this. My first one happens my 8th grade year of school. So earlier, when I was talking about how I grew up, I said that up until my 8th grade year, I hadn't had a friend. That is because my 8th grade year, my family moved 952 miles from McKinney, Texas to Millbank, South Dakota. And when we moved there, I had to do one of the scariest things I've ever had to do, which is I got up, I put my shoes on, I laced them, I put my jacket on because South Dakota is cold, and I got driven to school. I walked into school, and I had to start going to a new school where I knew absolutely no one. I knew no idea about how the school worked. And I was really scared. I was really worried about what people were going to think about me, whether I was going to fit in or what that was going to look like. And so while all of this is stewing within me, I walk into the school, I find my locker, I do the little trivia quiz thing to open it up and put the code into the dial. It was so difficult for me back then. I open up my locker, I start putting my things into my locker and organizing it. And while I had been organizing my locker, this about 5'8" South Dakota boy had spawned behind the door, unbeknownst to me. So when I close the door, and all of a sudden there's a human being there who is standing there going, "Hi, I'm Stuart." And I go, "Whoa, it is 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not really ready for this kind of engagement, but hello," and I shake his hand. Stuart had been selected as the safe kid. I say that as nicely as I can. For those of you who may not know, if you go to a school for the first time and you're new there, sometimes the school selects a student who maybe has good standing, good reputation, to show them around so that they can get to know, like, hey, this is how school works, there's where the cafeteria is, this is where all your classes will be. But Stuart was that for me. What I knew in that moment is I had met a new face in a new place. What I didn't know is that I had just met one of my best friends that I would have throughout high school. So in the coming 4 years of high school, Stuart and I would do a lot of things together. We would go on trips. We would have like late night drives where we just listen to music. We would go fishing a lot, and we would watch a lot of those Marvel movies I said I saw in theaters. I got to see right beside Stuart. And he, to this day, is still very near and dear to me. A second friendship I would like to talk about happens about a year after I had met Stuart. I am sitting in the gym locker room, post-PE class, waiting to be dismissed, when this very tall and somewhat large high school freshman boy sits down right next to me. And I look over and I go, whoa, hello, how are you? I say that in my head because at first I was very nervous, you know? I'm like, what's about to happen? And as I'm looking over, I see that he has an Incredible Hulk water bottle. And so I lean over and I go, hey, I'd like your water bottle. And he goes, thanks. And we start having a conversation. We talk about things, and he ends up telling me that his name is Noah. And he introduces himself. Once again, new face, new place. That was all I really knew. What I didn't know is that I had just met my best friend. Noah and I, for the first 2 years of our friendship, first 2 years of high school, we were kind of friends in passing. We kind of like knew each other by name. We would say hello to each other. We'd maybe hang out every now and then. But it wasn't really until our junior year of high school where our friendship really deepened. Because that was when we both found out that we were Christians. And so we were able to start having conversations that we might not have been able to have with others who maybe weren't Christian. And we were just able to reflect with each other in different ways because of that. Now, sadly, my freshman year of college, Stuart and I's relationship would start to fade away as we would go opposite directions for high school. But Noah and I would go to for the first year of our college experience, we would go to the same school, and our relationship would just deepen even further. As we both deepened in our faith, we got very close as friends. We would do a lot of things together, from movie nights to Friday cookouts. He was a really good cook. And after 8 years of friendship, Noah is going to be my best friend. He is my best friend. He is going to be my best man at my wedding. And I'm very excited about that and being able to join him into that. And sometimes when I talk about Noah, people can say, hey, man, that's a really cool friendship. I'm really glad, that's a really awesome relationship that you have with him. And I go, thanks. But the thing is, a friendship like Noah and I's hasn't come without cost. The cost of being the sacrifice of not putting ourselves at the center of our friendships. There have been many times where I have had to put my desires aside and my comfortability so that I can speak something into Noah's life. And there has also been times where Noah has had to step out of himself to speak something into my life. My freshman year of college, in the fall, I remember driving home from church with Noah, and Noah leans over to me, takes a breath, and goes, hey, Jackson, I need to tell you something. And what he told me, if I'm being honest, offended me. I was a little upset because I was like, what do you know? Which is funny saying that to my best friend because he at the time knew me better than anyone else. But after a moment, I took what he had to say, I took a breath, and I went, yeah, you're probably right. And that was a really big growing point for us, even though it was difficult and it was hard. Us being able to take ourselves out of the center and prioritizing ourselves and prioritizing the other person brought us closer. And let me tell you that Jesus wants to have the same kind of relationship with you. Jesus wants us to take ourselves, put ourselves aside, and put him at the center of our lives so that he can be at the center of our friendships. And we know this to be true from personal experience, but we also see this throughout the Bible with different friendships that are discussed about. Maybe it's Paul and Barnabas in the New Testament. And tonight we'll be talking about the friendship of David and Jonathan in the Old Testament. For those of you who may not know, let me catch us all up. David was a Israelite person. David and Jonathan lived about 3,000 years ago on the other side of the planet in this place called Israel. And they were a part of God's people called the Israelites. Where we're going to pick up tonight is following David's very important military victory, where he was able to have victory over a very prominent enemy named Goliath. And so David is coming back to Israel. He is being met by King Saul, and him and Jonathan meet. And in the book of 1 Samuel, we read this. After David had finally finished talking with Saul, he met Jonathan, the king's son. There was an immediate bond between them, for Jonathan loved David. Now, for some of you, you might be like me, where when I was younger and I read this or heard about this verse, I felt a little uncomfortable because I'm like, what do you mean he loved him? Now, something we have the advantage of having is that 2 weeks ago, Tony got to speak to all of us talking about what the fullness of love can look like. The idea of the fullest, the truest love is choosing to love someone. And I believe that this is what we're seeing here. We're seeing David and Jonathan begin this very close and intimate relationship as friends and as close companions. This is continuing to be deepened as both David and Jonathan would have times where they experience sacrifice for each other. So, picking up where we left off the story of them meeting and quickly becoming very close, we read and we find out that as people started to see more of David, as David has more experience on the battleground, people would start to hear about that and they'd start talking. They'd go, hey, have you heard about that David guy? I hear that for every 10 people Saul is able to beat, David's able to beat 1,000. And then people would start talking about that. They'd be talking about how great David is. And Saul would come to hear about this and he would go, ooh, I do not like that. Because he was a jealous king who wanted to have pride in who he was. And David was starting to encroach on that. And so Saul would start to become very angry with him to the point of wanting to kill him. And so David, seeing this and feeling very afraid for his life, would share this with Jonathan. He would go, hey, Jonathan, what is going on? Why does your dad want to kill me? And Jonathan would go, oh, you must be mistaken, because he hasn't told me that he's angry. He would have told me about this. Rightfully so, because he was the king. And back in that time, if the king told you something or didn't tell you something, it had to be true. And so David pleads with him, and Jonathan ends up listening to him. And David suggests a way to find out for Jonathan what is going on. And we read this in 1 Samuel. David suggests this plan to Jonathan. He says, tomorrow we celebrate the new moon festival. I've always eaten this with the king on this occasion, but tomorrow I'll hide in the field and stay there until the evening of the third day. If your father asks where I am, tell him I asked permission to go to my home in Bethlehem for an annual family meat sacrifice. If he says, fine, that's cool, okay, you will know all is well. But if he is angry and loses his temper, you will know that he is determined to kill me. Show me this loyalty as my sworn friend, for we made a solemn pact before the Lord. Or kill me yourself if I have sinned against your father, but please don't betray me to him. And so Jonathan accepts this idea and enacts it. And he finds out that his father really is trying to kill Jonathan, no, trying to kill David. And we see that Jonathan was willing to sacrifice for his friend because of his decision to love David. If we read on earlier, when David and Jonathan first met, we read that Jonathan would quickly come to make a commitment to David. He would give him his sword, he would give him his shield, and say, I seek to follow you, to be at your side. And so that's what David is calling back to here. And so when Jonathan found out that his father was really trying to kill David, and David confirmed that, David and Jonathan both knew that he would have to run. He would have to leave and go away. And at this realization, David and Jonathan would both cry. The author of Samuel actually makes a point to say that while they both cried, David cried the hardest. I don't know about you guys, but some of the closest relationships and friendships I have ever had have involved a lot of tears, a lot of emotions. And I believe that these emotions can be very good. They can be very fruitful as long as they are drawing us to one another. And so at this realization of how close they were, I would like to analyze this, and I'll give you about 10 seconds to think about this. But what made David and Jonathan's relationship so close? So take a second, think about that. Yeah. All right. Can I get two hands of two suggestions of what made David and Jonathan's relationship so close? Yes, Julian. Yeah, they believed and depended on each other. You know, that was shown in that last example, but there were many times where they were able to do that. Yes, in the green sweatshirt. They loved each other, right? That draws people together with that commitment. So, 3 reasons alongside these great examples that I think their relationship was so close was, I think, seen in Julian's. And our second answer here is that they had a commitment to each other. They decided that they were going to be present, they were going to be loyal. They didn't find out that they had to leave each other and each go, oh, good riddance. That was a real burden because he was never loyal anyway. No, they were sad because they lost a very close confidant of each other. A second reason I believe their relationship was so close is that they had such shared experiences. This can be seen in a lot of healthy ways. Some unhealthy ways, but I think some healthy ways we can see this is, I think there's a reason that sometimes maybe a 6th grader wants to hang out with another 6th grader. Maybe an 11th and 12th grader wants to hang out with someone also around their age. I think those can be good because we're able to share experiences. And we don't want those to grow too much and put hedges around people we then are labeling as people we don't want to hang out and say we only want to hang out with these people. But there is a beauty in a shared experience with others. Their final point I want to draw out of their friendship is that they also had a commitment to God. Because of Jonathan's decision to follow God and understand him, that shifted his view of how he viewed David. He didn't just view David as a very close friend, but he also viewed him as God's anointed king, as someone who was going to inherit the throne of Israel. Now, as we talk about this friendship, and we talk about these great sweeps of what they accomplished and of what they did and their very strong commitment to each other, it can be daunting. It can be daunting to go, yeah, that was their friendship, but that's not mine, because that was so much bigger, you know? I don't know about you guys, I've never had to face and fight a literal giant. I've never had one of my friends' parents try to kill me. But this is the same kind of commitment, this is the same kind of friendship that Jesus wants to be a part of us with, that he can deepen our friendships so that it can even get to this level too for us. We see this in Jesus' greatest commandment in Matthew. We read that Jesus replied to the religious leader of the time. He said, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. A second and equally important commandment is love your neighbor as yourself." The entire law, the entire Torah, and all demands of the prophets are based on these 2 commandments. So as we read that, who is Jesus referring to as our neighbors? And I think that there are 3 main categories that the people we interact with can fall into as people as our neighbors. I think, firstly, he is talking about our friends being the people who are our neighbors. You can get that next slide up. Yeah, talking about our friends, people that we decide we want to hang out with, whether that's at school, maybe it's at extracurriculars, or in other activities. I think, second, he is saying that our neighbor that we are seeking to love is our family. Now, if this was the fullest breadth to the extent of the people Jesus is calling us to love as our neighbor, I don't know about you, but I would be very okay with this. I would go, yeah, Jesus, I can do that. I like hanging out with my friends, you know? I can hang out with them. I can even decide to not be friends with people anymore. Now, family, you might be, for those of you, I think for some of us, we might say, yeah, it's easy to love my family. They're the people, love them at times. They're people I grew up with. They're the people that have shaped who I am today. And I can definitely do that. I can do friends. I can do family. But I fully believe that Jesus is referring to a third category also. I don't think he stops here. Because I think that also Jesus is calling us to love our enemies as our neighbors. For me, I can struggle with this at times. Whether it's someone I know who has hurt me, who has had a negative experience with me, or maybe it's just someone I'm walking alongside in the grocery store and I go, ooh, I may disagree with that person. I don't appreciate them. At times, I may not want to love them. But I believe if we're taking Jesus seriously, he's also calling us to love them too. And if he is calling us to love the people that we don't enjoy, the people we may disagree with, how much more is he implying that we should be loving our friends and our family, and specifically our friends? How much more should we love them? I believe a lot. Now, as we talk about the idea of love a lot tonight, I think it's an important stance to ask the question of what is love? And as we talked about earlier, is the choice to commit to someone, to put them first. And I think also that the Apostle Paul has a great example of this in 1 Corinthians. Now, before we read off this verse, some of you might have heard this verse before and know this as the marriage verse. We can put the next slide up. It is in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Oftentimes this is read at a lot of weddings, but I'm here to tell you that this is not the marriage chapter, this is not the marriage section, this is the love section. This is Paul talking about what does love look like, specifically within evangelism, but in all areas of our life. And he writes, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it doesn't boast. It is not proud, it does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. I once had a mentor of mine suggest that as we read this, and if we want to know how we are doing at loving one another and showing this extent of love, there's an easy practice we can do, and I try to do it somewhat regularly to remind myself of where I'm at. But he suggested to substitute your name in for love. And so for the first sentence of this verse, it would look like this, for me at least. Jackson is patient. Jackson is kind. Jackson does not envy. Jackson does not boast. Jackson is not proud, and Jackson is not proud. Jackson does not dishonor others. Jackson is not self-seeking. Jackson is not easily angered. Jackson keeps no record of wrongs. Now, that's only the first sentence. That was only a bit of this verse, and already within me there is a struggle because I read that and I say that, and I recognize it to not always be true. If I had it my way, I would read it more like, well, Jackson is sometimes patient. Jackson is usually kind. Of course, Jackson doesn't want to envy, and Jackson doesn't want to boast. But I am continually working on how do I take these truths of love and then apply them to myself. Now, this can be daunting. This can be hard standard to maybe look at or think about, but I believe that this is what Jesus is challenging us to look at. Because if we put all of this together, we get the realization and this great takeaway of the fact that the deepest and most fulfilling friendships are those that reflect the relationship Christ has with us. What I mean by this is if we're seeking Christ, if we are seeking to understand love, the love that he has for us, because the love he has for us is everything we just said it is, that Paul says it is. And if we understand that, if we bring him into our center and say, I want this to be true, I want to learn more about this, we can then share that with others. We can then show that love from that overflow within us. Now, with this in mind, what might this look like in our own lives? What might this practically look like as we leave church, as we go outside, and as we go home? How can this look like? And I think the first point I want to say, I don't know how many of you have heard this or how many of you need to hear this, but first things first, Jesus is fighting for your heart. He is actively working to be at the center of yourself. Now, when I say heart, I don't mean the 1 pound organ in the center of your chest. I'm talking about your emotions, your passions, your desires. Jesus wants to be at the center of that. He wants to help decide and prune those feelings and those thoughts. In Proverbs, we read that as water reflects the face, so one's life reflects the heart. If I was to go up to water and look into a pool, what would I see? Just shout out. I would see water. I would see myself, right? Yes. You go, Jackson, that was a slow ball, softball, easy question. Good job. If our hearts, if our passions were go up to water, what would they reflect? Would they reflect kindness? Would they reflect patience? Would they reflect anger? Would they reflect Jesus? Would we see the reflections of our actions in our hearts and go, hey, that looks like Jesus? If now maybe you're realizing that it wouldn't, that it doesn't always reflect Jesus, but you desire to reflect Jesus, let me tell you that this is exactly where Jesus wants you to be. We see in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 20, that Jesus says, "Here I am. I stand at the door and I knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with them, and they with me." Now, in first century Middle East, the table looks a lot different than it always does for us, a dinner table, or a meal table, I should say. In Jesus' context, the table was the central point of a family, of the household. To join someone for supper and to sit at their table was the equivalent of saying, hey, I agree with this family, and I want to be a part of this. And so Jesus is saying he wants to be with us. He wants to be at the center of our actions. He wants to join our family. You know? He wants to bring us into his family also, ultimately. And so if he is at the center of our passions and our desires, then what would it look like for him to then be at the center of our whole selves, of our desires, but also our actions? And I truly believe that this looks a lot like the Holy Spirit entering our lives, the advocate coming in and being with us. Jesus says in the Gospel of John, "But when the Father sends the advocate as my representative, that is the Holy Spirit, he will teach you everything and he will remind you of everything I have told you." And so we see that as Jesus is at the center of our actions and our whole selves, he is at the center of how we live and how he is taught to live in the Gospels. And the same way of living that he acquired and was able to make us allow us to step into through his death and ultimately his resurrection. Now, as we've talked about some really cool ideas of how this might look like for us, what are some practical ways we can look at this? I don't know about you, but for me, I always feel like I need something to do. And so I think the first thing we can do when we're speaking about love, when we're speaking to have the fullest understanding of this through our friendships, we can look at our friendships and we can examine them. And I have 2 questions I'd like to camp on to ask about our friend groups. First one first. In our friend groups, are negative comments made? Are there a lot of maybe negative or unhelpful remarks to people being made within our friendships? Because just as our hearts are reflected in water, so are our friendships reflected in their actions also and in friend groups. In our friend groups, are people often the butts of jokes? Do we use people at the expense of laughs and entertainment? This question is very near and dear to me because a couple years back, I was with a friend group, and I'm so close to them, just not as much anymore. I was with a friend group where there were many people in it, and one of them, her name was Betsy. We'll call her Betsy for now. Betsy was a very kind and sweet girl. She was very caring. Betsy was also not very good at speaking up for herself. And so oftentimes people would recognize that even within our friend groups and proceed to use Betsy as a punching bag to help get laughs out, you know? And Betsy cared for her friends so much that whenever this happened, she would go, whenever I would make a comment sometimes, I'd be like, hey, isn't that a little mean? And I would get hit with the, oh, it's okay, because they know we're joking, or it's fine. Guys, it's not fine. Because comments like that, things like that, can have deep and lasting impacts on people. Now, if I'm saying this and you're going, hey, Jackson, that's really cool, good example, but I do that so I feel really bad now. Let me tell you, I'm not here to try and guilt you or make you feel bad. I just want us to realize that our friendships and the friends are people we count on and people that we can truly love and ask to love us. And there's a deepness there that can sometimes be overlooked if we think that our friend groups, their fullest potential, is in making us laugh or having some sort of amusement through them. And if you're hearing this and you're going, hey, my friend group sometimes does that, I would suggest that there are two things we can do in response to that. If you're willing to come with me and say that way of having friends is not the optimal way, I think first off, the question is, can we fight from within? Can we go to our friend groups and be with our friends and be like, hey guys, so we do this, but I think there's this standard that we can do differently. We can do this instead. You know, we can love one another. We can seek Jesus. We can seek peace. I'm not saying we can't have humor. Oftentimes when I hang out with my friends, I end up on the floor with a very sore abdomen because I'm laughing so much. But it's not at the expense of people. It's not deprecative. So I think we can try to communicate to our friends and try and draw our friend groups up towards a higher standard. Now, if you're within a friend group that maybe that is not possible, maybe they aren't wanting to hear that or willing to hear that, maybe it's something to do from the outside. Maybe it will take taking time away from them, maybe choosing other things to do than hang out with them, to maybe hang out with other people or live in a way to go, hey guys, so this is the standard I'm trying to go do or live by. Not in a spiteful way, not to go, oh, you guys aren't good enough, so I'm going to do this over here instead. But it's going, for the sake of myself and the health of myself, I need to take a moment and step away. Now, as we take all this in, I have one final thought I'd like to share with us. Just as David and Jonathan had some very deep commitments that drew them together in love, I'd like to ask, what commitments are in your friend groups and in your friendships? Are there maybe spoken commitments, and maybe are there unspoken commitments? Are there things that you have talked about, that you have agreed with and gone, yeah, we're going to share this as a value and shake hands? No, this isn't a handshake, but I don't have two right hands, so this is the best I got right now. You shake hands and you agree, yeah, this is how we want to do it, this is how we want to live. Those can be good commitments, those can be bad commitments, but they're understood. Are there maybe unspoken commitments? Maybe there's assumed understandings of how your friendship will act. Maybe it looks in a way of, it's implied and assumed that if life is good for someone, I will definitely step in with them and join them in that struggle. But if life is not good, maybe they're going through a hardship, I'm going to take a step back because our friendship, I'm not committed to that. And so I would love to ask us the question and ask, how can we seek to analyze our friendships and seek Jesus and look for him in our friendships? Ultimately, because the deepest and most fulfilling friendships are those that reflect the relationship God has with us. First, starting with Jesus being the center of ourselves, so that then it can spread out to our friends. And the cool thing about that is that if it's spreading out to our friends usually, hopefully, have friends that aren't us. Our friends have friends, and our friends' friends have friends, and our friends' friends' friends have friends who have friends. Did I lose everyone there? No? Good. So it is these circles that keep expanding, and it all starts with us seeking to have Jesus at the center of ourselves. So, yeah, that's it. Now I would like to invite Tony up so we can transition into another moment. Oh, yeah, we are. Yeah. So I'm going to pray real quick before Tony starts to speak, just as we head into small group time. Jesus, you invite us into something so amazing. You invite us into your story, into your epic. And through that, you invite us into your love. And so I just pray right now that tonight, if there are any words that are not of you, I just pray that they would fall to the ground, that they would not be remembered. But Lord, if you are trying to speak to someone tonight, I pray that they would stick like glue, that you would continue to remind them of the truth you want to share with them. And so I pray that you would be present as we head into small group time, and that you would be moving to even start those deep, loving relationships even tonight. In your great and powerful name, amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jackson. Appreciate that. Just curious, what did you hear tonight? What was the takeaway that you heard tonight that I can come to you on a microphone and you can share it? Just a few of you, anybody who's willing to share. Raise your hand. Yes, coming to you.
I learned to take accountability in like your friend groups and hold each other accountable.
Okay. Imagine if we did that. Somebody else. What you got? Takeaway from tonight. Coming over to you.
It's important to go out of your way to keep others accountable, but it's also important to go out of your way to accept what they say when they hold you accountable.
Love that. It's really good. We've mentioned accountability twice. Let's see if we have another thought here too. It's good. Yeah.
Love your friends, family, and enemies.
Yeah, that's good. I love it. And one more.
I forgot what I was gonna say.
It's okay. That's right. Cool. Anybody else? One more. It's okay. All right. You can grab a seat. I want to just hit on that. I know we mentioned accountability, and that is a huge part that is missing from a lot of our friendships. We, at times, are afraid to just tell our friends, here's what I see. I kind of see something that I'm concerned about. Or accountability goes the other way. I know you've been trying to grow in something. Here's what I see. You're actually growing in that. Because sometimes we deflect that. We're like, oh, no, I'm not. Or no, I'm not growing. And you are. And so it's good to receive from your friends, too. Accountability kind of goes both ways. And what I want to just encourage you guys tonight is to remember, I was sharing this with our leaders earlier. We have a meeting every week at 6 and that we meet. And I just said, like encouragement starts with your eyes. It starts with you actually looking and noticing who needs encouragement. And sometimes that encouragement is accountability, like in a way where you go, hey, you know what? I feel like you got a blind spot here. And other times that encouragement is, here's what I think you're doing really well. And so use your eyes tonight. When you go to small group tonight, look for somebody maybe to connect with. Don't just huddle with your normal people. Stretch out. Try to make a connection with as many people as you can. Something that was part of the message here is it said the deepest and most fulfilling relationships are those that reflect the relationship Jesus has with us. So your relationship with Jesus is affecting other people, whether it's growing or whether it isn't. Because as you are loved, you're going to be able to love others. So really good stuff here in the message tonight. I hope you were able to retain that. Before we dismiss, I want to remind you guys, next week is a new opportunity for us to grow. We're going to spend some time. If you have our calendar, you know the series. We're calling it Madness. This world is filled with a lot of different ways to live. And what we see in our world today is actually reflected in what we saw in the first century when Jesus walked the earth. There's still a lot of the same worldviews that are floating around. So we're going to look at the alternatives, and it starts next week with you guys inviting your parents. My friend Joby, he lives in Colorado. Does anybody like Colorado in here? Okay. So you may not know this, but Colorado has an elevation. Do you know what it's called? Anybody here? Denver? The Mile High City, okay? So here's what's really interesting about Colorado is because of the elevation, a lot of people that want to train for athletics, they go there because it's hard to run. It's harder to run, I should say. Your body has to get used to the elevation. So it tends to be that a lot of people in Colorado are like fit and like athletes and all that kind of stuff. And Joby comes from that background. He comes from that family. He's going to talk to us next week about something called the 40-day fight. And he's raised his sons to all try to figure out like this whole sporting thing and how does faith and sports connect? What does this have to do with like your relationships and your mental health? So we were going to just bring him in for you guys, but then we thought, let's go bigger. Let's invite your parents to be a part of this. So I really need you guys to do this. I need you to remember tonight when you go home to tell mom and dad, hey, there's a special thing for you next week. And so you guys will come in here like you normally do, and then your leaders will be in here with you. But mom and dad will get a chance. We're actually have a mom and dad section in the family room back there, that room behind this room. So they'll be back there. And then we're going to do something special with them after the message time is over. We're actually going to be broadcasting to the other campuses too because we want everybody to hear this. But we're going to begin a 40-day challenge, and it's up to you if you want to do it, but it's a 40-day challenge between here and Easter. A lot of people are familiar with what's called Lent, which is like a season of sacrifice. And sometimes we do that just to be religious, or we do that because we're going to like give up chocolate for 40 days or something like that. And that's not what this is about. This is about like you actually listening to what God wants to say into every area of your life. So know that is next week. Know that it is up to you guys to invite mom and dad. Please remember to do that because it would be cool if we all had the same language about these things when you go back home. All right, sound good? Yes. Awesome. Wonderful. We're going to dismiss you guys to small groups. We're going to start with our 10th graders. You guys can head on out. 10th grade. And then 9th graders, you are up. 9th graders. Seventh graders. You guys good? Everything cleaned up on your seats? Okay, hang on a second. Followed by the 6th grade girls. 6th grade girls. Hey guys, I was just mentioning earlier, we had on these seats up here last week some ink, so make sure you check your seats. Make sure there's no ink on your seats, okay? Okay. No, I know. And guys, so we need you to be looking out for each other. Make sure that's not happening, okay? All right. All right, 6th grade guys, you're good. 8th graders, you're good to go too. 8th grade, head on down. And then 11th and 12th graders, you're good too. Enjoy. Hey, 11th and 12th graders, you will be sharing this space for a small group next week. Just know that we got to do that because we'll have moms and dads in that room. So we're going to share this space next week for a small group, all right? Thanks.